Hello and welcome to Kilos of Craic. In today's show, episode 1, The Test, we have Brian F. at brianf.us and Jefferson Davis, myself, at jeffersondavis.us. In today's show, we talk about everything from WordPress plugins to accents. So it should be a really interesting show. Tune in next week. Thank you.
It's raining and cold and ugly, and it's a perfect Irish summer.
Right. I tend to think of Ireland every time it rains, and here lately, it's been raining a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see Granddad. I told him maybe he'll pop in just for curiosity's sake.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So really, I guess this is just going to be a catch-up episode. If he doesn't pop up, just between the two of us, see what we've been up to. There's a few things I could talk about. I want to talk about this new ransomware. Have you heard about it?
No.
It's called I Want to Cry.
Uh-huh.
That's supposedly the name of it, because if you get it, you're done. Apparently, this ransomware, which has affected over 100 countries at this point, as of last night, and actually, they wouldn't tell me, but my server went down for about 2 hours last night.
Wow.
And it's supposed to be Linux-based, but knowing companies, they probably have a Windows DHCP server or some stupid nonsense like that, so...
Right.
But this new ransomware had them in the past, and what they would do is ask you for, $500. They would encrypt all your files and ask you for like $500, and you pay them, and they would send out the encryption key, and you'd be able to unlock all your stuff.
Right.
Well, this new one, they're not doing that, and it's actually a worm. The NSA has known this for years. That was part of the WikiLeaks deal.
Mm-hmm.
They've known for years about these Windows or Microsoft exploits, where they could run executables through a worm without you ever knowing anything about it. So this new ransomware, what it does is it, through an email or somebody watching porn or whatever, it'll infect your computer, but it won't do anything if that computer is updated. But what it will do is search every PC on your network, on your local area network, and if there's one with a vulnerability, it'll attack it and then encrypt it.
Right.
So apparently it's not as bad here in the States, but it's affected over 100 countries, and even hospitals have had to turn people away.
Yep.
So not good. And they wouldn't tell me when I called last night, which they were real nice, and I was nice to them, but I have a feeling they had like a Windows DHCP server or DNS. Something that was Microsoft based that wasn't fully up to date, so that's what happened.
Well, when I hear about ransomware and all that, all I can think of is welcome to Windows.
Yeah, exactly. And if it wasn't for Adobe, and I actually talked to them yesterday as well, trying to sort out some stuff, but if it wasn't for them, they've ported all their Adobe products years ago to Mac, which is, as you know, most people don't realize, is Unix-based. I mean, it has that pretty eye-candy front end, but it's Unix-based.
Right.
Which that's one reason they don't have to worry about hacks or being hacked as much. But it would be easy for them to port it over to Linux. I don't know why they don't do that, because more and more people are getting away from Microsoft.
Right.
It's beyond me why they don't do that. So, yeah, this is a bad hack, and where I work, I can't say too much publicly, but we got hit with that twice within a year. Even though the second time, both times it was an email. One was pretending to be UPS to verify a shipping address. Never pay them, because that just makes more brazen, and they're gonna do it again. So.
Right. Exactly.
By the way, I'm Jefferson Davis at jeffersondavis.us. If you don't know who I am or who Brian is, welcome to the family. Welcome to the chaos that is Kilos of Craic. And Brian F. is...
brianf.us.
There you go. But we did if you never heard this before, we did a podcast for years. What, about 7 years, Brian?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Me, Brian, and several other people. Granddad at headrambles.com, and Kate the Great at
Cackaloo.com.
Oh, that's right. I didn't know she was still posting on there. I talked to her, with Facebook and everything. But I think I use Facebook to keep up with what everybody's up to, but otherwise I'm not going to help them make money. I mean, basically, when you write on there, you know, anything of any substance, you're just helping Facebook make more money. And I've got no problem with them making money, but the problem is Mark Zuckerberg is a social justice warrior, and he's playing games, and he's going to get burned.
Yep.
Eventually, if he continues doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be around for that party. But
Right.
Twitter's the same way. I love Twitter. It's a great tool, especially for businesses to promote whatever it is they're selling. But that's really all it is at this point.
Right.
It's not a free and open. Have you ever heard of Gab.ai or Gab.al? It's Gab.ai.
No.
It's a Twitter alternative for libertarians and conservatives.
Oh, okay.
It's about free speech. And there's also Minds.com, which I do use pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
It's another libertarian. It was the first. It came out before this Gab
Okay.
website. And it's pretty neat. It's different, so it's something else to keep up with.
Right.
But it's a pretty cool social networking. And I noticed that a lot of people on the right and center right and even in the center are moving from YouTube gradually over to what is it? Vids.me.
Okay.
I think is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a YouTube alternative for the same reason, because which everyone on YouTube's been hit on the left and the right. I watch some people there, left, center, right, center, right, hard right. And I watch Vice News, and that's hard left.
Okay.
I have to keep up with them and see what nonsense they're lying about from
Right.
day to day.
Right.
For curiosity's sake. So there's other alternatives now, thankfully, for getting your voice out there. And that's another reason, you know, everyone that is some sort of creator, and everyone's a creator, but if you have your own ideas and you don't want to be censored, you need your own website.
Right. Exactly.
And I recommend curatech.ie. Shameless plug for Granddad there.
Yeah.
He gave me so many tips in that one email that, like, I didn't have a firewall on my website, and I didn't really think I needed one. I changed my login extension from the WP-login, which is the default, to a different one. So I thought I was pretty safe. He's like, oh no, you need a firewall. And I started watching it yesterday before it went down, and I was getting hits from Beijing, China, and Slovakia, and Serbia on that WP-login that doesn't exist. So
Exactly.
it's called WordFence. That's one of the ones he recommended.
Okay.
And it has a live traffic section on it, and you can actually watch. Even though your analytics, they tell you all the visits to the site. Even if you're not a popular blog, and mine's not at this point, because I've got to work on it, obviously, and I just started it back up. Even though you may not have a popular blog, 100 hits a day, 25, 50, whatever it is, you may get thousands of, I was amazed, thousands of hits a day from these hackers and bots constantly crawling your site trying to find a vulnerability.
Yeah, about a year ago, all my comments were turned off, and I asked Granddad about it, and he looked into my blog, and I had something like 15,000 spam comments on one post.
What was the content of the post?
Oh, I don't remember. It was, here's my new dog or something inane like that.
Right.
But I had 12,000 spam comments.
Wow.
And it just filled up the database, and you couldn't comment on my blog. Granddad went through it, and he deleted all the comments in that one post.
Wow.
And then there was maybe a couple of hundred other, but he got rid of that and put WordFence on, and I haven't had a problem since.
Yeah, apparently it's used by millions of people, so it's good. And a lot of these plugins, they'll let you have some of the tiny microscopic a bit of the features, and then they have advertising. When I'm inside of WordPress, I don't want to look at advertising necessarily.
Right.
So it's really annoying. I know they have to make money. They spend months, sometimes years, developing this stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to have something, when, they do offer other features, but they give you most of it from the get-go. So it's real nice of them to do that.
Okay.
And WordPress is supposed to be all about free and open source, or half the plugins now, they want you to pay money. So,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, I understand, but don't, beat me over the head with it.
Right.
Speaking of being beaten over the head.
Obama's gone.
Yes. Life is a lot better now.
Yes, it is.
I saw him on TV the other day speaking somewhere, and I didn't turn the sound up because when he left office, I said I don't ever want to hear that man again, and thankfully I've not had to.
Yeah, he was bitching about climate change and we're all gonna die and
Yeah.
a giant snowstorm in July and all that.
Actually, I would welcome a snowstorm in July because it's usually about 100 degrees here. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, August is our hottest month, and it can get up about 105
Mm-hmm.
in August with about 100% humidity. It's
Right.
miserable. It is miserable. I work with a couple guys from New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. There's a lot of people that have moved down here from up north. I mean, thousands. Some are great, and some are blue bloods that moved down here because Obama told them to. So
Right.
it's a mixed bag. I've got no problem with you lot. Obviously, I talk to you all the time. But they aggravate, picket, southern people because every time it snows, we freak out.
Mm-hmm. Yep, probably every time it rains.
Yeah. Well, I don't freak out. I can drive in it. I've driven in the foot of snow with no four-wheel drive or anything. It's not that big of a deal. It used to snow a lot more, at least what I remember when I was a kid. Of course, I was smaller, so who knows?
Right.
But actually, if you go back and look over the last 100 years of records, weather records, the 30s actually were the hottest, or for this area, were the hottest. The mid to late 30s were the hottest years. The 30s it was the hottest decade in the last century, 1930s. So.
Yep.
And that was before nuclear weapons,
Exactly.
That was before any of that. So, which we were pumping out cotton at the cotton mills as quick as we could back then. So, I'm sure that made things even hotter, and there was no air conditioning.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I used to ask my grandmother and my great-grandmother, what'd you do before air conditioning? We sat out on the porch and fanned ourselves. That's what we did. So she said church was miserable in the summertime, but other than that, they dealt with it.
Right. I've often thanked God for air conditioning.
I keep mine in the summertime on about 75, which to a lot of people that's like hot, but your inside temperature should be, I read this somewhere a long time ago, it shouldn't be no more than 20 degrees, which is really hard in the summer, but 20 degrees cooler or warmer than it is outside.
Right.
That would be pretty difficult where you live in the wintertime.
Yes, it would be.
But in the summer, I think the last time we did a podcast was 2011, 2012.
Was it that recently?
2011 or 2012 was Kilos of Craic. Me, you, and Dhdrk. So a lot's changed. We have a new president, El Presidente.
Yes. Yes.
Donald J.
God.
Trump.
Thank God we have a new president. And thank God it's Donald Trump.
Yeah. Even the Democrats don't like Hillary. They won't admit it, but
Right.
most of them don't.
Right.
I mean, the little social justice warriors and ultra commie feminists, they like her, but
the feminazis.
Yeah. Did you hear in Russia this past week, a guy, well, this happened a few months ago, but he was Instagram Snapchatting. They have Snapchat built into Instagram now, or their version of it, basically, where you can record video being stupid or whatever. He was inside a church playing Pokemon. This guy was. I will look up the story, but a cathedral, in Moscow, or was it St. Peter's? I can't remember. I will look it up and link it below. He was playing Pokemon inside a cathedral, and he was arrested and now he has like they were going to send him to jail, but now he's on 3 years probation, or their version of probation.
Right.
And after you remember the feminists from 5 or so years ago?
Pussy Riot.
Yeah. You know, they got in trouble for doing, not that, but doing something in a cathedral in Moscow.
Yeah, they went to Christ the Savior Cathedral in Moscow and played a gig on stage in the middle of a mass.
Right. I just thought it was interesting. A lot of people were like, get them, you know, and I've seen both sides of it, you know, the atheists, and I got no problem. I have no problem with atheists. Some of my best friends are atheists. As long as they're philosophical and they're out for the truth and not just being jerks, then I like them.
Right.
It's like Stefan Molyneux. Have you ever watched any of his videos? The philosopher on YouTube?
A few times.
He's pretty good, and he's an atheist. I don't care. And
exactly.
Him recently, he usually sides with the Christians on most points of view. He's like, well, I may be an atheist and may not believe, but you know, at least they're not going to kill me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I have an opinion of live and let live on stuff like that. Believe what you want.
Right.
But the last couple of years, Brian knows all this, but you all may not. Finally got educated and got a piece of paper after years and years and years of going to college. Finally did that, and then I went on to work in security for a couple of years, and that paid absolutely nothing. And then I worked for the largest newspaper company in the United States that owns about 55 different newspapers, which I think, even as a libertarian, that is highly... I mean, when you have somebody, irregardless of where the main office is. Now, they say, and they swear to God if they would, that the main office has no effect on what they write. Well, if the main office writes the checks, then I swear to God that they do have an effect on what is written in every one of those newspapers. If somebody controls my money, then they control me for the hours that I'm there. Now, they can say whatever they want. As a libertarian, I'm about freedom, right? And if businesses are doing good, then, you know, they want to grow, whatever, that's great. But there has to be some minor limitations. I mean, we broke up AT&T in the 70s because they were too big. Now they're like 10 times the size they were back then. Why are these corporations they're just buying up? It's like Google. Google owns, Alphabet, you know, they own YouTube, they own, you know, there's Alphabet is Gmail that everybody uses. Why are these companies, I understand they're successful, they should be successful, but why are they able to buy out all these other companies and no one says anything? They're controlling what you see and what you hear. So this is they have too much control, in my opinion, over what we see, read, and hear.
And 50 years ago, we were controlled by the Democrats, who just want to regulate the shit out of every industry there is.
Yeah, and
so
thankfully...
it's called free market. If Google gets so big that it can buy up all these other smaller companies, well, then so be it. I personally don't have anything to do with Google. I don't have a Google account, and I don't use any of their products. I feel the same way about Microsoft. Microsoft might own 98% of the market, but I'm a 2%er.
Right.
I don't use Microsoft products at all.
I'm all about the free market, and, well, it may not sound like it, but I am. It just makes me a little nervous that they have so much of I guess a market share of what we see here. And enjoying a nice cup of coffee this morning, no tea.
I'm having Mountain Dew.
No coffee for you, huh?
No coffee.
Well, you know, I used to be big on tea, and I still am, mostly in the wintertime, but I have to have my coffee too.
I like Sumatran coffee.
I can't say I've ever tried that, I don't think.
You should. It's very good.
All right, I'll do that. Probably the best coffee I ever had. Well, there's two places in the village. I don't remember the name of it, where Granddad lives. there's a little coffee shop on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
They had really good. I don't even know what kind of coffee it is, but strong coffee. Last time I was over there, I think I drank we sit there for 3 hours, and I think I drank 5 cups of coffee, and I was shaking after all that coffee.
Oh, after 5 cups of coffee, my hand would definitely be.
And it's not a huge cup of coffee as Americans would get. It's a little small, like an Italian espresso, basically. Small cup of coffee, but 5 of those, and you're like,
yep,
wired. Yeah, crazy stuff. And Clement's Coffee in Belfast, of course, the famous Clement's Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
They also have the best muffins I've ever had in my life.
Ooh.
Yeah, blueberry. Every time I go there, I eat way too many muffins. So really good blueberry muffins at Clement's Coffee, right across from City Hall.
Okay.
There's also a really good coffee shop. I'm sure you have one where you live, but there's a really good place called Coffee Underground. And it's on Coffee Street in our main. Yeah. It's a side street off of our main street in our downtown area, and it's the cobblestone. There's a little area of 3 blocks that's still cobblestone, all supposedly original, which all that stuff was ripped up back in the 80s and put back down again because it was all torn to shreds.
Right.
But anyway, you go down this side alley, or Coffee Street, and you go down these stairs. It's really uber hippie. It's pretty cool. And there's a great little coffee shop in there, and they have a Poetry Wednesday, and I've gone down there and read and made a fool of myself, and it's a lot of fun. They also have musicians on Friday and Saturday nights, and they have Guinness on tap, which is pretty cool, in the evenings. So. But they have really good coffee. Okay. So every time I go down there, when I worked down there for the newspaper, I stopped by there all the time. But now that I don't have to drive down there and all that traffic, right, I don't go as much. But exactly. I will post a picture one day next time I go down there of what Coffee Street looks like. But we also have I don't remember the name of the street, but it's basically the pub alley. I call it, where all the pubs are, including Conley's Irish Pub, which is owned by some multinational corporation and run by an Italian guy. Exactly. There's one real Irish pub within 60 miles of here. It's within 5 miles of me, but I'm 60-mile radius. It's called the Irish Pub, and it's run by a guy from Craic. Okay. He's actually a professor at the local college, a business professor. But he owns that Irish pub, so when he gets done teaching, he goes to the pub and opens it up. And it's in the rich area, so there's you run into a lot of people, a lot of lawyers. It's near the courts too, so. Right. The last time I went, I was with some friends. This was back in 2014. We had finished training. This is when I was also working for the newspaper, but we had finished training, so we wanted our training, and we went and had a drink and had too much. That happens. Yeah, usually every time I go somewhere, so I don't do that very often anymore. Okay. Guess what Tuesday is? What's Tuesday? May 16th. Is that your anniversary? No, that's my half-year anniversary. Oh, cool. How many years and how? On Tuesday, it'll be 7.5 years. Wow. That is really impressive, Brian. It is. That's incredible. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. That is freaking awesome. Are you still doing the, Brian will never say anything like this in public because he's much more modest than I am, but he does a lot of great stuff. So you still doing the prison? No, I stopped going to the prison. No, the local prison that I was going to got to be too hard-nosed and too many rules and regulations, and they made it very, very difficult for us, so I gave up. Yeah, the government has a bad tendency to do that. I swear that the smallest-minded and sometimes the stupidest people, it's like they're magnetized to government work. Yes. I don't know. I guess it's the stability that they will have a job. Well, with Trump in office, good luck with that.
Hmm. Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, here in Harrisburg, being the capital of the state, our major industry is state workers.
All right.
And typical state worker, it doesn't rank very high in intelligence or common sense.
Right.
No.
I understand it, but again, I hope that he does away with tenure for most jobs or government jobs.
Yep.
I don't like the fact that, I got out here and I work, whether it's my photography business, which, I'm the sole proprietor and the one and only. So if I don't work or if I don't do, make any sales, then I don't make no money and I don't eat. But I also work part-time for my family doing IT consulting. There is no tenure.
Right.
Maybe with some family businesses, but not with this one.
Right.
You either do your job and you do it well, or you don't have one.
Right. Which is the way it should be.
Exactly. And the fact that they can be nasty and rude, the DMV is the worst, the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
That is the worst, that or the tax office. The
Right.
tax office around here is usually better, but the DMV is awful. It's no matter which one, I have to go to them quite often, usually for work, in different counties between my own and work.
Well, our DMV, PennDOT, was so bad at one point that multiple governors have sworn to make it better. And I just had to go change my address. And I'll tell you what, I was in and out of there in 5 minutes. Their customer service for people off the street is so efficient. It's amazing. But I also did a contract with the state, around 2001, where I was mapping and verifying all the wiring, both data and voice. And I was working in this particular PennDOT building, and I was up on the third floor. I'll never forget seeing rows and rows and rows of black women just recently off of welfare, who were brought their work in the morning, took them till about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning to finish their work, and they spent the rest of the day on the phone or on the internet. And I thought, there's our state government at work.
Yeah, they have become more efficient here as well. I've not actually mentioned them where it should be very prevalent as to where I'm from if you've never listened to us before, but I'm from South Carolina, the upstate, kind of in between. I'm at the tip of the pie for South Carolina, in the mountains. Well, I'm actually in the valley, but I'm surrounded by mountains. So.
You're between Atlanta and Charlotte.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep.
As prevalent by my voice. I run into a young guy from North Carolina, not that far away, recently, and most people from the Appalachian area of North Carolina, the westernmost part, area called Boone, which that's where they grow Christmas trees around here, or within a couple 100 miles of here. Mm-hmm. And the kid, or the young guy, he had no accent whatsoever. Sounded like American from
anywhere.
Central United States.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it curious a lot, and that's from a linguistic point of view. A lot of younger people, I guess, because they've grown up with all of this technology and are able to hear
right,
multiple accents continuously, that they kind of are neutral. So.
Right. I was watching about 2 years ago. I was watching, of all things, NASCAR, and Darrell Waltrip did a bit on North Carolina accents, and he was saying out of the same family came 3 different accents, and that it's very distinct for North Carolina. It's very distinctive between the East and West.
Yeah, it's the same here. Well, South Carolina, we all sound pretty similar, but there's a definite Appalachian accent, and there's a mid-state around the capital. They don't sound like South Carolinians at all, because most of them aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, and then there's the people on the coast who are a mixed bag of from here and not here,
right,
from all over. So there's a definite difference between the 3 different main areas of the state. It's a good thing and kind of a bad thing. We're losing part of the different areas, not just the South, but California, the West Coast and the Midwest. Oh, I got a funny story for you. I had to call, and I won't say who, but a big telecommunications company and another company that worked with that company because we had closed down an account with them, and these 2 accounts were still linked. So I had these 2 women on the phone, one from Alabama and one from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman from Minnesota, she was an older woman. I could tell that just by the phone call. And I love Minnesota people, but I was, giving her a hard time. But she was kind of being not necessarily rude, but snippy.
Yep.
And sometimes I am overly defensive, and when I have somebody being snippy like that, I have to inform them that, yes, I sound like a hillbilly, but I'm well educated. So, well, I don't have to do that, but I did it. And like I said, I'm sometimes over defensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I said that. I said, I may sound like she said something. I don't remember what it was. And I said, well, I may sound like a hillbilly, and I may be one, but I'm a well-educated hillbilly. Well, the girl from Alabama, she said, well, I'm a hillbilly. Am I dumb? I'm like, oh, God. So I'm in between these 2 women on this phone call. And I said something, to be defensive to a rude-ish kind of comment. So I've got these 2 women, and I was in the middle of it. So it was entertaining, to say the least.
Right. Well, I think I've told you my gut reaction when I hear a Southern accent is that this person's not intelligent.
Right. And that's understandable, and that's been bred into people for
generations.
100 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or more. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's nothing that sticks with me. It's just a gut reaction.
And I worked back starting in 2006. I was going to college at the time. I told you I went for a long time. And I had public speaking, 2007. We were doing the podcast. But I had asked the teacher if she knew anyone that could help me with my English to sound more neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't sound like a hillbilly. So she recommended a woman that taught theater. So I started going to her once a week, and she started telling me, things to say. Things I already knew how to say, but how to neutralize it or cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that, and not to say that any of you ever noticed the difference, but I could definitely cut it back some, the accent.
Okay.
But during that time, I had, for some reason on a Sunday or something, I went to visit my grandfather's grave, and then I thought about all the generations, Davises that had been here since 1867, that, all that they had to deal with, and why they came to America, and why they eventually ended up in the South. And I kind of bothered me that I was trying to rid myself of that. It would be, I might as well change my name.
Okay.
So I just quit trying to get rid of my accents. Now, when I'm talking to somebody from another country that doesn't understand American English that well, then I will work hard to eradicate what Southern dialect I have.
Right. I had an attorney during my divorce who's from rural Florida, and she said it took her about 2 years. Mm-hmm. She went to law school up here, and she said it took her about 2 years to get rid of her accent, that she consciously worked on it.
Right. Yeah, you have to consciously work on it to get rid of it, but it's difficult. The old Southern accent is sticky, man. It'll stick to you, and it is what it is, and people are gonna. By this time in my life, I realized that people are gonna think whatever they want to think, regardless of what you say or what you do. So
exactly. Now, I was gonna say it's about time to wrap it up.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a matter of catching up is really what is all we were going to do this week. So we'll be back next week, hopefully with Granddad and Dr. Don, even if I have to strangle him.
I'll be here.
All right.
Okay, JD, talk to you soon.
We will build a great wall along the southern border. And Mexico will pay for the wall. They don't know it yet, but they're going to pay for the wall.
Hold me,